and we're back with the DiScArDeD project, and currently I'm working on some fabric manipulations. So I've done lots of pleating, different varying techniques. There's fishbone, there's the smocking, some box pleating that I folded back on itself. This is pleated DiScArDeD plastic with some ribbon and some pleated paper, inspired by that image. Then I had a go at doing some fraying. So I made a denim feather with two different types of fray, and this one's quite solid because it's just chopped. And then this one is, I pulled out some of the fibres, which again I did on this woven fabric. And then using my stabby thing, I distressed this chiffon, and then here we've got 4 or 5 layers of different fabrics, which I've then slashed into and distressed the fabric through. I have also then, so that was my frayed and torn. I've added in some pleated. I have used DiScArDeD materials to pleat, and I've started looking at distressing fabrics using heat and other methods. And I used heat to create some shibori, and when I did this one, the dye from the beads leached onto the fabric, which was quite cool. I quite like it. And then I've got some, this shibori was chiffon that I melted with the heat gun rather than steam, and I just put buttons underneath it. And so for today, I'm going to do some crackle distressing. And in order to do this, I've just got a strip of fabric. This is just out of my fabric scraps. I've just cut it to size. And I'm going to use my trusty texture paste. So I'm doing this tonight because I want to leave it overnight to dry out, and then I can crackle it, and then I'll potentially put some crackle varnish over the top of it as well, but I might add some dye to it as well. But I've chosen this fabric for underneath because it's quite mottled and it's got quite a good pattern to it. Now this is homemade texture paste using baby powder, PVA glue and water, and you just smush it up until it's kind of a decent texture. It does settle, which I can tell you now it has done. So I'm gonna have to get, hang on, this ruler works. This ruler works quite well because it's just metal. It's not got a sponge or anything on the back. So just smoothing it up a bit so that we can use it. Because it's got talcum powder in it, it does settle, and it just, when you want to use it, you just have to smush it up a bit, although it smells quite nice. At some point I will buy myself some texture paste because this is a pain when you want to use it. And it does this. Right, I'm going to pause the video, give it a really good smush up, and then I'm going to come back and do the smushing. Okay, so I have given it a really good mix. It is still lumpy, but that's the whole point of texture paste. And I'm just going to put a layer, quite an even layer. Well, doesn't really need to be even. Just a layer across the fabric. And as I said, I'm doing this tonight because what I want to do is leave it to dry overnight. And then I'm going to crackle it. And then I'm going to use some dye to distress it. So I'll put some dye in amongst the crackles. And then once that has all set, then we will have a go at washing off the texture paste and seeing how it works. I've watched a few videos and They use all sorts, from texture paste to just flour and water paste. I think one even used plaster of Paris, which I can't see how that washes off, but that's okay. We're using texture paste because that's what I've got to hand. I don't have any flour. So it is messy, but it is going to definitely distress this fabric. Even if it doesn't work and it's a disaster, the fabric is still going to be not pristine and it's going to be distressed. So, and it'll give me stuff to write up about. Because sometimes the ones that don't work are the ones that are easy to write up. And as we know, writing up is not my favourite thing to do. I was meant to do the write-up on the 2 pages I've just showed you this afternoon, and instead I sat and watched Doctor Who instead. Because I don't like writing up. I like doing, I like creating, I like having fun, getting messy. Yes. So, right, I've given that a layer. Just making sure we fill in any of the gaps. I'm hoping, because the texture paste has some PVA in it, that it will should adhere to fabric. It does work when I use it on stencils. It works so much better on fabric. It definitely sticks better to fabric than paper. So I think because it soaks through a bit. So I'm going to do, in this video, I'm going to do quite a few different distressings. I will do some burning, but I do have a phobia of fire. So it might not be a long burning. I'm going to do some more heat manipulation. I'm going to do some bleaching, which, as I mentioned in my last video, I am actually going to use bleach because I haven't got any Milton. But if you're in school, you need to be using Milton for safety. And when you, as I said last video, when you are melting, heating, bleaching, just be aware of toxics. And if it's overpowering, leave it, get out, have some fresh air, have a glass of water. Yeah, just be very aware that some of these plastic fabrics, these synthetic fabrics, will create toxins. So just be really careful. Try and do it in a well ventilated area. And if you are using fire, just have something close by that you can put it straight into, like a bucket of water or sand that you can pop it straight into, to make sure you're keeping yourself safe while still having fun with your art. So that's a nice coverage. Ooh, I'm flicking it everywhere. I am absolutely covered in it. And I am going to leave that to dry overnight. So we will come back in the morning and we will have a look and see if it's worked or if it's just a messy disaster. Fingers crossed it'll work. So I'll catch up with you in a bit. Okay, so I left this texture paste overnight to dry, and it's dried really nicely, and I'm just cracking it. It is already starting to lift off the fabric, which is fine, but I'm just cracking it up. And then, using some India ink, I'm going to paint over the top of it and leave that to dry as well. So just giving it a good crack. You can see it's created some cracks already. Some of it's starting to lift, but that's fine. That's all part of the distressing. Actually, probably won't even need to wash this. I'll probably be able to, once the India ink has dried, just peel off the paste. Right, so I've left it on the plastic because otherwise it just creates an absolute mess. Shake off any bits that are loose. Right, and then this is just India ink. So it's just black drawing ink. It's water resistant, so if I do want to wash it, I can. I'm just going to get quite a large brush. This is a bit mullered because this is the brush I use to clean my sewing machine with normally. And just going to add a little bit of water. Just water it down a little, not a lot. Just a little bit of water. Oh, and some ink. I want that ink quite thick, quite concentrated, and I'm just going to paint over, getting right into the gaps, getting right in. So just splodging it on. I could have used any colour, but because the background is quite a busy background, I've gone over it with the black, and hopefully it will create like a crackled effect on the fabric. So this is what I'm hoping it will do, just by splodging it into the gaps. Splodging it in. And then let's just do that last bit. It does just look like an inky black mess at the moment, but hopefully when the ink has dried, we'll be able to peel off let's just flip it over, because you can see where the ink is coming through at the back. So let's just give it a little bit of a manipulated play and just go into some of those gaps. Get a few more of the gaps in, just manipulating it a little so we can get into those cracks. This is where I end up going to church today with black fingers. Probably should have worn gloves, but hey ho. Who wears gloves? Not me. Are you really an artist if your fingers aren't covered in paint? It's a bit like when I'm gardening. I spend days with grubby hands because you don't ever get it all out. Just making sure we're giving it some really good inking up. I'll just turn it over so you can see it's coming through the cracks. So I'm going to leave that to dry now, and then I will come back and pick off the texture paste, which I love doing. When I was teaching, we used to do it with flour and water, and we used to do like a batiki type effect with the kids, and the picking off of the batik they enjoyed the most. So yeah, just making sure we're in all those little gaps. Yeah, we're in. Yeah, right, okay. So I'm going to leave that to dry, and then I will come back and pick it off. Oh, fabulous. Okay, so the ink has pretty much dried. I have managed to cover everywhere in ink on my desk. So what we're going to do now is just peel off some of this texture paste. Okay, I did give it a blast with a heat gun, so actually what's probably happened is the glue's got a little bit better. Okay, I'm going to have to leave it a little bit longer to dry. So we'll leave that a little bit longer to dry. It's a little bit, still a little bit damp. So I'm going to leave that to dry a little bit longer, and I'll come back to it when I get back later on. Okay, so we are back, and this has dried really, really nicely. And you can see it's already peeling off. And then just where I peel it off, you can see it has left the black lines. So looking at the back, you can see where the lines, the ink has gone through. So I'm just going to continue picking this off, and then we'll decide what I'm going to do with it. I did have the idea that I might slash and fray some of it, or I might use it and tie it in knots so you can see both sides, or I might just leave it as it is. But there we go. So that's that middle part. If you remember this bit, the paste had already peeled off. So when I inked it, you got quite a big black bit. But I love it. It's done really well. It's really, really taken really beautifully. So I'm going to continue with that, and then we'll come back and we'll look at the next distressing method. I have got some ideas. There's always ideas buzzing around in my head. So I'm going to pause it and restart, and then I'll continue picking this. How beautiful and distressed. It's quite weird because it's like, it's really beautiful, but it is kind of distressed and moody, and actually it really goes well on the blue mottled background. So that was distressed using the texture paste and ink. I'm going to save some of these, and I'm going to stick some of those in my sketchbook when I stick this sample in. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this sample yet. I may just scrunch it, or I may just leave it as is. So I'm really pleased with that. That's turned out really well. And then we'll be back in a mo with my next distressed technique. So I really enjoy that. Okay, keep watching. Hello, my lovely crafty people, and we're back with another distressed piece. And today, or this evening, I'm going to make some paper lace. And this is the front of a lace catalogue I picked up at a craft fair ages and ages and ages ago, and I've drawn a grid over it. And the idea is that I sew using the sewing machine, just straight stitch across the grid, and then I'm going to submerge that into some water and let it kind of decay a little and deteriorate and even dissolve a little. And then as it dries, it should break away, and we should just be left with parts of the paper, and it'll be a really nice distressed effect. So I'm going to leave you there. I'm going to do the sewing, dunk it in water, and then I'll come back and show you what it looks like at the end. Hopefully it'll work. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Again, it's another new technique for me, another one I've watched some videos on, and I'm really enjoying trying these new techniques. So this will be another new one for me. So let's hope it works. Fingers crossed. Okay, so I have machined the grid over the top of my lace image, and I've scrunched it up, and the machine did catch and jump in a few places, but I'm okay with that because that will just add to the distress of the thing. And I've kept the tags on the edge, so I'm going to go and soak this in some water and just keep scrunching it as it gets wet. It is quite shiny, so it might take a little bit of dunking, and then we will come back and see what it looks like and leave it to dry overnight. So that part has worked. Fingers crossed the next part works. And here we have it. So I popped it in a sink of water and just left it to soak for a bit. And then I scrunched it up in the water and then flattened it out in the water. And I just repeated that process a couple of times. And then I left it for a few minutes. And you can see it's really broken down the fibres in the paper. That was really quite solid, waxy paper. And yeah, so it's turned out really, really well. So I'm going to leave that overnight to dry. Okay, my lovely people, so I have left this to dry overnight, and it's quite crackly. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to distress it a little bit further by adding some moisturiser onto it, which will break down the fibres a bit more and turn it almost fabric-like. This is a process called momigami, and I've used it before. My lovely friend Lindsay at the Vintage Button taught me this method, and it's a really good way of breaking down paper fibres and making them more pliable. So you just need, this is just I mean, I've got so much moisturiser, so this is, no, it's not a cheap one, but you could use cheap ones. And then all I'm going to do is rub it all over, making sure I get a really good coverage. Just making sure the whole paper is really covered, and then just scrunching it up. And what this will do is it will break down those fibres a bit more. Where when I wet it, it broke down some of those fibres and made it pliable. Just scrunching it with moisturiser will just break those fibres down a bit more and give them a little bit more pliability, so it won't be so rigid when I want to use it. So like if you were going to use this in a garment, by momigami in it, it would make it kind of more pliable to be able to manipulate around a mould or a shape that you want to use. So you can see it is breaking down the fibres a bit more. It has, I mean, and I would probably keep going with this, but I don't want to lose all the fibres. So potentially I probably should have momigami'd it first, but then I wouldn't have been able to soak it. But just breaking down those fibres a bit more, just getting in, making sure that it's a really good coverage of moisturiser. And then I'm going to leave that to dry a bit. I mean, obviously it won't dry completely because it's now got moisturiser on it. But anything that's really crinkly, I'm just going to really work in some moisturiser. And I really like it, actually. It's a really nice way of distressing the paper to make it more pliable. But I mean, like, this could work on, like, I could use some dissolvable wet, like, fuse, and then do it with little scraps of fabric, maybe, by, like, and I'm going to use that, to be honest, when I fuse all my little scrappy offcuts together. I'm going to use some dissolvable fabric so that the scrappy offcuts are left between the sewing. So there we go. Just making sure I've got them right in. And all these little bits here can go in my scrappy bits that will end up being fused. So nothing's going to go to waste. I like this. Yep, there we go. It just takes out the crispness of the paper. There we go. That's that one's quite crunchy still. Just makes it more pliable. So I'm just going to leave that for a bit. I'm off to volunteer at the food bank today, so that will give that a good couple of hours to dry. And then today I think I'm going to have a go at burning, melting, heating. As I said before, I do have an irrational fear of fire, so this might be one I do somewhere near water, but let's see. Okay, there we go. And actually what I can do is stick, because it will, so if I just push bits down, let's have a go at these little bits. Let's push them down on top. It will adhere them because you're kind of moulding the fibres together. There you go. Right, so I'm going to leave that. That's that technique done. That will go onto my distress page. It might have other things stuck over the top of it because it's quite a large sample. But I wanted to do a big enough sample that you could see the effect properly. So I quite like that. There we go. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned. Okay, so I had a go at birding. I popped a piece of fabric onto a embroidery hoop, and then using just the lighter outside near some water, I just burnt the edges and burnt a few holes. And actually this has kind of kept, you can see where the burn marks are. But what I'm going to do with this, I love that my lighter matches my colour screen. What I'm going to do is I'm going to free embroider around the burn marks, just to give the fabric a little bit more stability. And then I'm going to have a go at some melting. But this fabric, this bleached kind of sarong that I had, burnt so easily and so quickly. It didn't take much to take. So it just kind of makes you think about the fabrics you're wearing and how flammable they are. But yeah, no, that was a little bit scary. On how quickly that took. But as I say, I'm going to free embroider around the burn marks and just to give it a bit more stability. So keep watching. Okay, so after a few failed attempts with the machine embroidery, breaking a few needles, I don't know why I keep doing that, I switched up to a stronger needle and I backed this burnt fabric onto some just fusible fleece. It's my tomato fleece. Just gives it some stability, because what I found is when I was trying to free embroider, the fabric was getting all caught up and it was going down into the bobbin section and it was catching everything. And I think I have, because my machine, you can't drop the teeth. It's got a little cover that goes over the teeth when you want to free embroider. And quite often that lifts. So what I think I need to do is find a better way of covering those teeth. I think I could probably get a better cover for it, but I'll do a little bit of research on that. Because what it does is it bounces up. I have got the right foot on finally, but it bounces up and then the needle catches the cover, which then in turn breaks the needle, which then clogs everything up, and it's a right faff. But I really enjoy the free embroidery, so I'm going to find a way around that. Yeah, the teeth on my machine don't drop, which is a pain, because that would just solve all of this. But it will all be right in the end. And I'm quite pleased with the effect. And what I'm going to do, because I know this fusible fleece melts if you put heat on it, so I'm going to cut it around the shape. And then I'm just going to use the heat gun to melt it so you can barely see it behind. But actually, that's quite a good effect. That was just my test, making sure my needle was running fine. And actually, it stuck the burnt bits down, but you can still pliable. Excuse me. And you can still see the effect. And actually, I really like this orange with the turquoise. So I'm going to pop that one to one side while I've got my heat gun out. Bear with. In the charity shop today, I found this rather hideous shirt. It's like a long sleeve top, and it's out of what I call sheen fabric, because it's that horrible shiny polyester and elastane. So it's 95% polyester. And I just think this will melt really nicely. And actually it's the right colours. It's already kind of printed, and it's had some sewing done on it, but it is quite a hideous top. It's that horrible I hate this fabric, but this fabric will melt beautifully. It's what I call sweaty fabric. It's one of those fabrics, the minute you put it on, you just sweat. So I'm going to have a go at melting some of this as well. And then I think, apart from bleaching, I think we're done with the distress samples, and we'll put that page together. So hold fire, literally, and we'll be back soon. Remember, if you are burning, be safe. Be safe out there, peoples. And if you are melting, particularly polyester, because this is a lot of plastic in this, just be safe. If it gets stinky or it gets like you're feeling a bit faint or anything, just stop, put it to one side, get some fresh air. Try and do this in a ventilated area as well. So I'm going to cut the arm off this and I'm going to have a go at melting it. So we'll see what happens. I'll be back soon. Okay, so as predicted, that t-shirt sweaty polyester fabric melted beautifully. That is just with the heat gun. Just holding it so close towards the fabric. I cut a circle and it's just melted through. It's gone like really crunchy on the edges. So that's quite cool. heated. So my last one for this page is bleach, and I've got like this velour fabric that I did try ironing some keys into, so I just thought let's use this. So I've just mixed some bleach with water, and I'm just going to paint on some lines. I'm hoping this will work. Hoping it will just lift the colour. I have ordered myself some decolorants. It's like a magic paste that you use to paste on, and then as you apply heat, it takes the colour out of the fabric. Not 100% sure how it works, but it'll be good to have a go with. So we'll do some of that later on in the project. But that's not arrived yet, so I'm just going to do a range of lines. I think because this is quite a thick fabric, it's going to need a couple of coats. And I have mixed the bleach with some water as well, just because I thought the neat bleach might not work so well. So let's have a look. Is that lifting? It's not really lifting the colour, is it? That's not really working. Right, okay. Plan B. Let's grab a bit of denim. We know that'll work on denim. Okay, so I did my bleaching. I did this outside, which is why I didn't record it, just because the smell of the bleach was quite overpowering. So for this one, I used a little cardboard tube I had out the middle of something, and I just printed on circles of bleach, and you can see it's taken the colour quite nicely. This one, I used one of my dotting tools, and I just ran the bleach around the applique that was already on. So this was an old top that had a tear in it, so I had it in my fabric stash, and it's already got applique on it and sewn in patterns. So I just went round the patterns to highlight them. And then this one was just more of that plastic polyester fabric, which again I dotted on, and it has taken the colour out. So what I'm going to do with this one today is I'm going to have a go at sewing into it. So I just want to sew round the circles just to emphasise them, and yeah, just to emphasise them, and to potentially even put a pattern in. Okay, so bleached, finished. It's time to stick these on the page. And I had already stuck down some of the other techniques I'd used for distressed. We've got the burnt fabric, we've got melted, and I've added shibori in with the melted because you do melt it using steam or heat or hot water to do the plastic. I've got the crackled, and I found these lovely catwalk images that I've added into the page, and a little bit more frayed because I needed to leave room there for the write-up. What I have done is added a little bit of orange because this orangey red dress, so just to tie the page together. And again, we've got that rusty orangey colour, and I've added some behind the lettering. So bleached will go up here. Like this. So we've got like a patchwork of bleached, so that I've got this section, and then that's going to go there. So I've got this section to do some of the write-up, and I've got some other bits as well. So to stick these on, I'm just using my splodge, which is a mix of Marvin Medium and clear PVA. Just sticks really well. So let's start with this one. So I'm just going to put a thin layer on the back. You can see now why I wasn't too worried about tying off the ends, because I'm just going to glue them down. Making sure I do get some glue on the edges. There we go. So we had that one just kind of there. Then let's do this one next. That's the front, that's the back. That one we had over there, didn't we? Let's lay it down. Then the denim. And my next kind of section is stained and corroded. So some of this will go into the stained and corroded. For example, the crackle, they call it a crackle resist, will kind of have a go at the stained. I'm going to have another go at that with other materials. And then also kind of the corroded, some of the burning and the melting might go in. But I'm going to have a look at using some household objects for dyeing, tea, coffee, beetroot. And so we'll have a look at that. So to glue these down though, because the splodge makes the paper buckle, I'm just using my glue stick, and it does glue down quite well. So I'm just going to lean across. I'll be lean across to my extra desk. Just going to stick that one down like that. Let's bring her down a bit. I really want to be able to see those bleached bits. And then just, all I did, with these are just like sticky note book markers type thing, and all I'm doing is just sticking each of the different words onto. Let's stick that down there. Now just stick it up there then. Go on then. That'll do this there. Onto the page. So got to find where I'm going to put that. I might just have it kind of lifted up so you can lift it. Or they could just go across like that, couldn't it? So you can still see. Yeah, let's do that. So let's stick that across. And that can just go across like that because we don't really need her hair. There we go. So that is that page constructed. It did take me a while to figure out the layout. And whilst I've got like a big gap there, that will be written on. There's bits here to writing on. And I've done quite a lot of overlapping. But I'm really enjoying finding these catwalk images. I didn't take note of the designer when I'll just put images, unknown source. But yeah, so using kind of some of the catwalk images to show how these techniques are used in fashion has been quite interesting. So as I say, my next video will be looking at staining and corroding. I'm going to have a go at rust staining using some vinegar. That was the other thing I needed to put on my shopping list today, vinegar. I've written a shopping list. And I know there's something else, vinegar. I need to get some vinegar so that I can rust some needles. I've seen a really good effect where you put pins through some fabric and then rust it. And then the final videos, so there'll be two more videos after this. So stained and corroded, and then patched and mended. So stained and corroded might only take one page. Patched and mended might only take one page. So, but we'll see. We'll see how far I go with it. But I have got to do these write-ups otherwise. And then at the end of all of that, I'm going to kind of pull some of the techniques together that I've done and kind of look to doing like a mini project with it all, just developing the skills I've learned in this. I will love this. I think this is my favourite, the crackled. So I definitely want to use this. And I really enjoyed doing the paper lace as well. Okay. Thank you for watching. Please like, follow, subscribe, hit that bell so you're notified of all the update videos and stuff. And I will see you soon.